to my channel, please press the like button, subscribe, share, comment. I appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate all the kind words. Thank you everyone for your support of the channel and of the community. In today's video, we are going to discuss I'm going to make it a bridge version. I'm going to try to make it sound as interesting as possible. I don't think that this is a dry talk about policies. If you own a security company, you manage a security company, if you are a police chief or a sheriff, which honestly you're probably not even watching this channel or these videos unless you're about to retire and you're trying to get to private investigations or private security, then you're probably watching these videos. That normally when I get commanders watching the channel, they're usually not commenting, and they are usually just watching and they're getting ready for retirement. If you are in police supervision, eventually you're going to be at the command level. So I think this is an important video for you to watch. What's up, Ryan from the University Security and Training Solutions channel? Welcome. Good morning to you, sir. Okay, so I've been around for a long time in the security and law enforcement space since 1998. Started as actually a police explorer in 1997. That's a long time. And I've seen policies change. Guys, so security company policies used to just be called a handbook, right? Well, actually, they're always a policy, right? It was a handbook. There was like 8 pages, 9 pages. And then in the law enforcement space, it was not uncommon to see 100-page policies, 80-page policies, 90-page policies, 50-page policies. One of the first law enforcement agencies I worked at, the policy was probably no more than 72 pages. And then at another agency, it was, again, about 100 pages. If you are somebody who's into policy development, you don't need to write more policies to justify your existence as a policy developer. What ends up happening is these middle managers to senior managers, they keep changing policy around, they keep researching it, which is kind of good, right? But it's to the point where they make it a full-time job, and if they stop developing, they stop justifying their existence. So they keep developing, and I say that in quotation marks. The policies now are just getting out of control. They are getting out of control. And the reason why I'm mentioning law enforcement policies is because security companies tend to follow law enforcement. And I would actually recommend that you not do that. There's a lot of policies that are online in the state of California. Agency policies have to be online, especially in particular the use of force policies. It has to be online, and it has to be accessible to the public. It has to be accessible to the public domain. Having said that, there are security companies out there that are really inclined to copy and paste these policies that law enforcement agencies have, and it's not a good idea, because those policies are meant for law enforcement work, not security. In California, you have mid to smaller size agencies. Most agencies, I think, in the United States have like under 20 officers or something like that. But a lot of agencies, they depend on a company called Lexipol, Lexipol. They are a law firm, actually, that develops policies. The CEO, I can't remember his name, he's a retired CHP sergeant. I took one of his classes, and he's by far one of the most intelligent instructors that I had the privilege to attend a class with. I mean, I took one of his classes in 2000, and it was over 10 years ago. And to this date, a lot of his philosophies make sense. And then where I work at, we ended up adopting one of we actually ended up adopting Lexipol. Lexipol start. So when I started getting introduced to Lexipol, and by the way, Lexipol is a private company. Law enforcement agencies do not have to. They don't have to adopt the policy, but a lot of them end up doing it, right? There was only like 300 pages. So we went from 100 pages to 300 pages. And now, fast forward, we are at like almost 800 pages. 800 pages. I challenge any police chief or sheriff that is a subscriber of Lexipol. I challenge them to a policy quiz. So all of these administrators that are adopting these Lexipol policies, I challenge them to a Lexipol quiz. Let me start pulling up some random policies and quizzing them. And I can almost guarantee with near a 100% certainty that they're going to fail the quiz. The more policy, the more lengthy, the more policies you have into place, the more lengthy, the greater chance of line staff not understanding them or forgetting them. And yes, Lexipol has like monthly or quarterly updates in which you basically read the policy and then you take a quiz, right? That's supposed to be training. Who the hell is retaining an 800-page policy? It doesn't make any sense at all. An 800-page policy? No. Now, I've been trying to research security company policies, and I'm actually impressed. I looked up Allied, and I saw like a 20-page policy online. And guys, I've never worked for Allied. If you have an Allied universal policy, please send it over. Please email it to me. I really want to look at it. I have never burned the information. I don't disclose the source. But I really would like to review an Allied universal policy. But the policies that were available to me are online, and it was like an ethics policy. I'm pretty sure that there's more than like a 20-page policy. But to their, I guess, man, I don't know what words I'm looking for early in the morning here, but I would say that if that's the policy or their guidebook, I think that they're doing a pretty good job. It's directly to the point. It talks about respecting other people. It talks about showing up to work on time. That makes sense. It makes absolute sense. And I don't know if you guys are into the Bible or into religion, but there's something out there called the 10 Commandments. And they are super simple. And this was I guess a policy for human beings created by divine intervention as a rule book, and it's 10 commandments. It's not called 5,000 commandments. It's not an 800-page I guess a tablet, right? Yeah, tablet that weighs 5,000 pounds because there's thousands of tablets of it. It's 10. It's 10. I don't know the 10 Commandments. I think I follow them every day, but I'm sure the hell gonna remember the 10 Commandments compared to an 800-page policy. I guess you can say that law enforcement, security evolves with technology and there's more litigation. I don't know if we can quantify that. I don't even know that's an accurate statement. All I can know is there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of all of these policies. And whether they have any benefit in the workplace, I'm going to question that. If you're out there creating even a 300-page policy, they're not going to remember this. They're not going to remember. So keep it simple. There is a such thing as too much information. The guys that, I guess, that work under my command, that are obligated to review, to meet expectations that I set forth at the place of my employment, I would pretty much guess that they are all in agreement that I write too much, that there's too much rules. And I'm working on that. I am absolutely working on it. I'm trying to reshape the organization where I work at as much as possible. And in doing so, there is a perception of micromanagement. And again, that's something I'm working on. The micromanager feels vulnerable because if they're not managing the workplace appropriately, it's going to fall under their shoulders, or it's going to fall on their shoulders, and they're going to be responsible. So they end up nitpicking as much as possible, creating as much rules so that they can hold people accountable. But I think sometimes it has the opposite effect. I actually stopped sending as much emails as I used to because it had a negative effect. People kept seeing my emails like, oh no, another rule or policy that Sean has in place, or a guideline, another one. So I actually started reducing it. And I think if you reduce the amount of emails you put out there, the amount of policies, the amount of information, requirements, it's going to be so much more simpler for everybody. Yesterday, I went to the mall, and there was a facility. There was facility guidelines, and there was like 30 or 50 rules that were like shrunken down to like a 10 font format. Basically, don't cause loud disturbances, no skating, no riding your bike in the mall, no littering. Like, there's a huge list. Yes, guys, there's a point, and I think it's for mall management and security, right? Hey, you didn't follow the rules that were clearly stated at the front entrance of the mall. Because of that, we're asking you to leave. You don't want to leave. Now we're telling you to leave. You should have followed the rules. By entering the premises, you made an implied contract to follow the rules. You broke the contract, so now we're asking you to leave. There's so many rules when you walked into the mall that nobody is going to read them. Actually, I think I'm the only one that reads the rules when they enter a mall. And that's if I have time. If I'm with my family, they get irritated because I'll pause at the door to read the rules. But do you think that the teenager that's about to cause problems is going through the whole list of rules? No. Keep your rules simple. Have 5 rules. Treat everybody with respect. No loitering, right? No stealing. I mean, and in a way, you kind of don't want to put common sense rules there. I'm sorry, you don't want to put common sense crimes, right? Don't steal. Don't rob the place, right? I mean, don't put those things down. Make it simple, to the point, and sometimes try to be as broad as you can, because the more broader you are, the more interpretation you actually have. But on the another note, that other person has the ability to interpret. So it kind of works two ways. But please, guys, just keep it simple. If you look at the security industry, if you had a simple 10-page policy, it might actually work. It might actually work. And I'll start with this. Follow the post orders, right? Follow the post orders. If you have like 3 or 4 company rules and then just add follow post orders, I think you should be okay. If the post orders state that you're to be there at the post at 0700, if you're there at 0703, You're violating company policy because you're violating the post orders. If you are driving around in your uniform and causing havoc off duty, well, the post orders doesn't authorize you to go off property and act like a clown. And the post orders might state that your employment obligation is only to the post. It's only to the property. It's only to the client. So why are you over there off property, off duty, acting like a clown, putting the security company in a negative light? What I'm saying is, maybe be a little, and it's just a suggestion, and I'm open to dialogue with anybody, maybe be a little bit more specific on the post orders and less detailed in the policy. Now, security company owners will say, no, we have to policy everything. There needs to be a policy for washing your hands, for where to look at the post. It goes back to the beginning of this video. If you make the policy so lengthy, everyone's going to forget. Matter of fact, you are going to forget your own policy if you make it so lengthy. And you might be trying to cover your bases for liability reasons, but it's going to have an adverse effect because later on the defense is going to ask, how many times a month, how many times a year do you have policy reviews? Okay, so that's going to be a thing, guys. If you're litigating in court, when do you do policy training? You cannot just give an employee a policy, a 300 or 800 page policy, have them sign saying that they acknowledge it, and think that you're going to be okay in court, because you need to have policy-based training. Go through comments. It looks like Ryan is the only one commenting. He says every time something happens that the client doesn't like, it can be incredibly minor that doesn't threaten life or property that can lead to policy reviews and security. Absolutely agree. He also says that ChatGPT is being used to write standards of conduct and generic duties. And I'm going to comment on that one in a minute. He also says a lot of security policies have to be written at a basic level. Yes. A real issue in the industry in the wide range of people using the security title. Yes. 8th grade level is about right for most security. Yeah. And I think try to keep it at most of the security levels. Nuclear security, PMC, it's at a law enforcement federal level. I agree. You know, those types of policies are more lengthy. University Security Solution Channel agrees that 10 general rules about right. And then he says using the facility for its intended purpose. It's a huge catch-all. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. So if you, I don't know if he's referring to like the mall having the policies, but yeah, you have to use the facility for its intended use. I think that's a good policy to write up. And it is definitely catch-all. Now, let me talk about ChatGPT. I do use actually ChatGPT. When I authored my first book, The Private Patrol Operator, that wasn't around. And then when I went to the second edition, it wasn't around. And then the third edition, I actually used it. It was very helpful. It was helpful in the sense that it helped me find the sources of information. Hey, there's a new business profession code that came out, and this is what it states. I asked ChatGPT to provide links of the source of information, and then I would verify the links. Do I have it write the whole book? Hell no. And I could talk about that in other stories or other videos. But you have to be really careful with ChatGPT, because if you're asking for ChatGPT to write you a security company policy that's based out of California in your state, believe it or not, it's not going to touch on all the requirements. It's going to give you a good framework to start off with, but I've seen so much bad information that's produced on ChatGPT to the point where it's going to bring you to, it's going to draw liability. So you have to fact check every single line item that's on the policy. But as for a foundation, as for a basis, I think it's a good idea. Should it be the policy? Should you have it reviewed without an attorney? Absolutely not. There is so many mistakes with ChatGPT. I try to have, so for example, I write a lot of the California Post curriculum, Peace Officer Standards curriculum, for all the courses that we do for different companies. And you have to create a safety policy, okay, a safety policy that meets the California Post safety guidelines, like specific sections. I uploaded the post policy, safety policy, and I asked ChatGPT to write me a safety policy that is written in my own words, because Post requires you to write in your own words. They know when you're copying and pasting and you're not putting in your own words. They know it, because I have had like 5 policies rejected. What was I going here? Yeah, so I try to get a policy written, and then I submit it to Post, and geez, oh my goodness, there's like 8 or 9 rejections. And it went to the point where I just deleted the entire product that ChatGPT produced. It just wasn't right. So I end up just writing it from cookie cutter scratch. I grabbed the California Post policy manual, and I wrote it in my own words, just like they said. There's things that ChatGPT cannot do, and that's one of them, right? But if you're out there being lazy and you're thinking that you could just ChatGPT these things, you can't. You can't. I've even had people say, "Hey, I ChatGPT'd it," and then I look at it, and the information is terrible. And again, it's to the point where you can create a liability situation. Does it set you in the right framework? Yes, it does. But can you depend on it? No, you cannot. Kenny talks about online module acknowledgements. So for policy development or for policies, it's very common for companies to have you read a policy, click through it, scroll through it, and then click I acknowledge. I understand the policy. I have no questions. That's common, but we are in the year 2025, entering 2026. You guys are reading the whole entire policy? Are you reading the entire policy, or are you just clicking through it? I'm pretty sure the human nature part of us tells us to go through the path of least resistance, right? I'm not saying it's me, but hell, if you're going to have me review 100 pages of policies, scroll, skim through it, click. I think if you're into policy development or you're into a leadership role in security, you might want to question your line staff about the policy. Like, hey, I noticed, and just pick a random policy. Hey, I noticed that you acknowledge the break policy. I got some questions for you. Let me quiz you on it, just to make sure that you have a full understanding, because it's pretty important to understand the break policy, because if you're in violation of it, we're all going to accumulate liability. We're going to end up having to pay you a settlement or a judgment because we didn't give you the proper breaks, and then you're going to be held accountable because you didn't follow the policy. So, and then that's where you question them about the break period. What do you do when you're on your break? I clock out. Very good. When are you entitled to a break? After how many hours of work? Good. How about your lunch break? How long is your lunch break? Good. Awesome work. Awesome work, my friend. Keep up the good work. There you go. and move on to the next post or your next assignment. To do that, I mean, that is the Socrates method. That is one way out of several ways for you to gauge understanding of your line staff, and it's probably better than just having them click the acknowledgement form. I mean, let's face it, companies want to just say later on, oh, the security officer acknowledged, because they acknowledged they understood. They even marked the I understand box. But when you have the expert witness testify that the standards of training require an assessment that's independent of clicking yes or no or I acknowledge, you're going to be torn up in court. So just something to keep in mind. Guys, that's all I have right now. I'm going to start doing more early morning, like, I don't know, maybe 6 a.m. Pacific time live streams. If you guys want me to do a specific live stream, let me know. All right, guys, I'm out, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue, looking forward to your suggestions and your comments. Take care.